No one could want you for love. Emily, only for convenience. Those words cut like a blade through the self-esteem of a 19-year-old young woman, in front of all the guests at a party that should have been a celebration. Imagine feeling the entire world judging every curve of your body, your every gesture, while your own father exposes you as if you were an object for sale. But that same night, in an impulse that no one expected, not even herself, Emily ran and kissed an elegant stranger in front of everyone. An impulsive kiss that broke the silence and shocked the entire ballroom. What she didn't know was that this man wasn't just any stranger, but one of the most powerful millionaires in the country. And that instant would change her life forever. Since childhood, Emily carried a weight that went far beyond her body. She carried the critical gaze of family, of society, and even of herself. At 19 years old, it seemed that every step she took was observed, analyzed, judged, and almost always with cruelty. Her father treated her like a bargaining chip, seeing in her only an opportunity to save businesses that had long been on the verge of bankruptcy. On that fateful night, in front of businessmen and influential guests, he uttered the phrase that would be engraved in his daughter's memory. No one's going to want you for love, only for convenience. Imagine hearing that from the one who should protect you, from the one who should love you unconditionally. The embarrassment was immediate. Shame took over, and Emily felt her heart tighten. It was more than humiliation. It was a cruel confirmation of everything she feared, the feeling that she would never be enough, that she would always be used and underestimated. Many people know this feeling of being a burden, and it's precisely at this point that emotional stories like hers begin. The ballroom was impeccably decorated, but for Emily, everything seemed like a stage of judgment. She saw whispers loaded with malice, uncomfortable stares, muffled laughs that echoed in her mind like accusations. Every detail, every gesture, every forced smile around seemed to amplify the pain she felt inside. Her father stood with an authoritative posture, as if he had the right to determine his daughter's destiny and expose her publicly. It's in this type of moment that injustice becomes almost palpable. It's not just about appearance, but about who has power and who is treated as a disposable piece. Many real stories show that young people suffer in silence, with nowhere to run, living situations that seem impossible to bear. And it's exactly in this contrast between celebration and humiliation that Emily's spark of rebellion began to emerge, still timid but ready to explode. What hurt most wasn't just the humiliation itself, but the naturalness with which her father exposed his daughter in front of everyone, as if it were normal to belittle someone you love. Each word of it seemed to hammer in the young woman's mind, reinforcing the feeling that she was seen only as a burden, as someone disposable. But life has a curious way of transforming moments of pain into catalysts for courage. It's when we're pressed to the limit that we discover strengths we didn't even know existed. In that instant, as she listened to the comments and faced looks of contempt, something began to ignite inside her, a mixture of sadness and rage, a desire to no longer submit. And, without realizing it, this small spark of courage was about to lead Emily to an unexpected action, one that would change her destiny forever, opening the way to the engagement night and to the kiss that no one would ever forget. When the engagement party night finally arrived, Emily felt every step inside the ballroom as if she were walking on broken glass, afraid of cutting herself at any moment. The brightness of the lights reflected in hanging crystals, but didn't illuminate the weight she carried on her shoulders, and the loud music seemed to mock her anxiety, as if each note reminded her that she was trapped in a destiny she didn't choose. The stares of all the guests fell on her like silent spears, and each whisper about her body or her dress hammered in her mind. The pressure of being judged and not being able to react was almost unbearable. Thoughts of escape mixed with contained tears, while she imagined how to escape without destroying her family or embarrassing herself even more. The injustice of having her life controlled by others' interests burned inside her. It's in these moments that desperation creates unexpected courage, that kind of courage that arises not from strength, but from extreme necessity, that transforms fear into action. Emily breathed deeply, trying to maintain composure, but each step seemed dragged, each movement watched. And in this chaos of emotions, she realized that she needed to choose between giving in and losing herself or risking everything to try to be free, even if just for an instant. The engagement ring chosen by the groom gleamed on the table, a symbol of the trap being imposed on her, of the marriage she didn't want and the submission demanded, which turned her into a piece of a game of others' interests. Everyone expected her to approach with a perfect smile, as if it were natural to accept being traded like merchandise, without protests, without her own feelings. But inside Emily, a storm of rage, fear, and rebellion grew with each second, tightening her chest and accelerating her thoughts. She breathed deeply, trying not to crumble, trying to control every movement, while feeling the injustice of her situation more intensely with each judgmental look. Each forced smile seemed to crumble her soul. Each imposed gesture reminded her that no one considered her desires. It's in this type of pressure that the human mind reacts in surprising ways. Either it surrenders or it finds a bold way out, even if risky. And Emily, in that moment, decided she wouldn't surrender. The spark of rebellion that was born from public humiliation began to gain strength, slowly leading her to the decision that would change everything. She realized she needed to act before destiny was imposed on her again, that she needed to create her own path, even if it was an unpredictable path. While the guests watched, murmuring about her hesitation and commenting on each gesture, Emily felt time slow down, as if each second lasted an eternity. Each look around was a silent accusation, each muffled laugh a reminder that she should bow to expectations. She knew she needed to find her own way out, a moment of freedom that couldn't wait. It was then that her eyes met those of a man in the distance, tall, elegant, who seemed to observe her with silent attention, almost as if waiting for that moment. Without thinking, without planning, she felt a wave of courage run through her body. Every fiber of her being said it was time to act, to defy the destiny they imposed on her. Her breathing accelerated, her heart beat faster, and in that instant, the young woman realized she would do something no one expected. It was a bold, risky gesture, capable of changing everything. Running, grabbing the stranger, and kissing him in front of everyone. An impulse that would transform fear into freedom, shame into strength, and that would mark the beginning of a night that no one would ever forget. The tension in the ballroom grew, and Emily was preparing to cross that line, that separate submission from boldness. In the moment Emily made her decision, everything around seemed to slow down. The ballroom, full of curious stares, transformed into an almost cinematic scene, and each step of hers toward the exit was loaded with courage and fear at the same time. Upon spotting a tall man in an impeccable suit standing in the distance, something awakened inside her, a sudden, almost irrational confidence that propelled her to defy everything and everyone. Without thinking twice, she approached, grabbed the stranger's tie, and kissed him intensely and unexpectedly. Absolute silence took over the space. Glasses stopped in midair, whispers fell silent, and even the music seemed to stop. That action, as spontaneous as it was bold, was an explosion of years of frustration, humiliation, and desire to break free. And at the same time, it was the beginning of something no one could predict. The entry of a powerful stranger into her life. The audience was shocked. Some murmured in disbelief. Others opened their mouths in surprise, while Emily, breathless, could only say in a firm voice, "I already have someone." The phrase sounded like a shield, a warning that she would no longer be controlled, that her feelings and her freedom were non-negotiable. No one could imagine that, in that impulsive gesture, there was more than rebellion. There was emotional intelligence, courage, and an urgent need to choose her own path. Many people live through moments when fear and social pressure almost paralyze them, and then an impulse emerges that changes everything. That boldness of Emily's was a silent cry against the injustice she had been suffering, but also an invitation to the stranger to enter her story. A kiss that, at the time, seemed just an act of desperation, but carried the power to alter the destiny of both. The man, for his part, didn't recoil or react with evident surprise. He just smiled enigmatically, held her hand, and conveyed security, as if he perfectly understood the boldness of the gesture. Emily felt, for the first time that night, that there was someone who saw her beyond appearance, who recognized her courage and her desire for freedom. The entire ballroom remained silent, and even her father seemed unable to react immediately. That impulsive kiss not only shocked everyone, but also opened a door to something completely unexpected. A connection with someone mysterious, powerful, and attentive to the slightest signs of authenticity. In that instant, Emily didn't know yet, but she had just sown the beginning of a relationship that would challenge conventions, family interests, and prejudices, and that would lead her to discover that sometimes life rewards the courage to be authentic, even amid unbearable humiliations and pressures. The mysterious man didn't say a single word, but each gesture conveyed something powerful and reassuring at the same time. He held Emily's hand firmly, yet delicately, as if to say, "I'm with you, even in front of all these stares and judgments." The entire ballroom watched, speechless, unable to understand the connection emerging between them. There was no urgency, no imposition, just a silence loaded with meaning. Emily felt something she had never experienced. Trust and security in someone she had just met. Her father, furious, tried to organize words of reprimand, but his authority seemed to dissipate before the man's presence. He didn't need to speak to make it clear that he understood her pain, her frustration, and even her desire to escape an imposed destiny. In moments, Emily realized that this stranger wasn't just a spectator. He was becoming part of her story, someone capable of supporting her freedom, even without revealing his name. The power of his gesture surpassed any wealth or status. It was a type of silent, almost hypnotic power that transformed fear into courage, doubts into determination, and desperation into action. With an enigmatic smile, he led Emily out of the ballroom, unhurried, as if each step were calculated to ensure that nothing could break the moment of newly discovered freedom. Each guest who moved to follow them seemed unable to understand that this exit wasn't just physical, but also symbolic. It was a young woman's escape from an arranged destiny, from the pressure of cruel stares, from the injustice she had felt all her life. As they walked, Emily realized that this man's aura conveyed something beyond security. There was power, intelligence, and an irresistible mystery that captured her attention, making her heart beat faster. This wasn't a common savior. He was someone who respected her initiative and, in a way, rewarded her for her boldness. She had never felt anything like this. No one had ever recognized her courage, instead of just criticizing her appearance or her mistakes. The night, previously suffocating, now seemed to transform into an opportunity to discover strengths she didn't even know she possessed. The silent connection forming between them had the intensity of those who share secrets without uttering a word, and the world around seemed to disappear, leaving just the two of them at the center of something unexpectedly significant. Upon reaching the exit of the ballroom, Emily felt that this man was much more than a stranger who had witnessed her impulsive act. He carried the certainty of someone accustomed to commanding complex situations, someone who didn't need to prove anything to anyone, but who, even so, was there, supporting her without asking for explanations. Each gesture of his, each silent look, seemed to recognize not only her rebellion, but also her dignity, something she had never felt in her own family. The contrast between the cold judgment of her father and the attentive care of the stranger was so intense that Emily felt a mixture of disbelief and hope. There was no rush, no impositions, just a silent promise of protection and respect. It was the first time she felt seen as a person, as a woman capable of deciding, and not just as an object of convenience. The night was becoming increasingly decisive, and that mysterious man was becoming a catalyst for changes that Emily still didn't fully understand. Each step they took together was a step toward an unknown future, but full of possibilities, and the tension in the air foreshadowed that her life would never be the same after that unexpected and enigmatic encounter. The next morning, Emily woke up to her phone buzzing nonstop. News and photos of the unexpected kiss were already circulating on social media, spreading rapidly among elite circles. Comments of shock, laughter, and judgments filled feeds and timelines, making it impossible to ignore what had happened. The engagement ballroom, which seemed like a stage of embarrassment the night before, was now turning into a scandal headline. Her father, visibly furious, spent the day trying to control the situation, sending messages and phone calls, try to minimize what to him seemed like a disaster. But for Emily, each notification received was a mixture of fear and strange excitement. For the first time, she felt the real effect of her boldness. Something that seemed impulsive, a simple act of rebellion, now had public and irreversible consequences. The young woman began to realize that, no matter how much the world tried to control her, she had generated a change that no one could erase, and that night would mark her story forever. While trying to understand the scope of the scandal, Emily felt the weight of all eyes on her again, but this time in a different way. It was no longer just shame or judgment. It was a mixture of curiosity and speculation about the unknown man who became part of the story. Who was he? Why had he supported her? The mystery around that powerful figure grew with each post and comment. She also realized that many who had previously looked down on her began to treat her differently, and to some extent, public humiliation was transforming into veiled respect, even if mixed with envy. It was impressive how life could take such unexpected turns, how an impulsive gesture could become a headline and change people's perception of you. Emily was still absorbing everything, trying to organize thoughts and feelings, but already felt that nothing would ever be the same again. The situation challenged her father, who now needed to deal not only with the family's image, but also with the revelation that his daughter possessed courage and initiative he never imagined. With each hour, curiosity about the mysterious man increased. Emily, still dazed, tried to understand if he was an ally or just a passing shadow in her life. The most influential newspapers didn't take long to publish photos, and the subject became a topic of conversation among businessmen and family members. Meanwhile, she felt a mixture of fear and fascination. Fear of the consequences, fascination for the stranger who had changed everything with a simple gesture, and, in the midst of all this confusion, an unprecedented feeling of freedom also emerged. For the first time, someone saw her beyond appearance or convenience, and this made her reflect on her own strength. The young woman began to understand that life, even full of pressures and injustices, could transform into something unexpectedly exciting when you decide to act for yourself. Each moment of that scandal was a reminder that courage and authenticity always have impact, and that sometimes the unexpected is precisely what sets us free. Days after the scandal, Emily received an unexpected invitation. Dinner at a luxurious restaurant, one of those that seemed belong to another world. The envelope bore only her name and no details of the sender, which increased her curiosity and anxiety even more. She hesitated, thinking if it would be a trap or a sincere gesture, but something inside her said she needed to accept. Upon arriving, she felt the weight of the sophisticated environment, but also the stark difference between that space and the ballroom of public humiliation. And then there in front of her was a man she had impulsively kissed on that fateful night. Nathan Sawyer, known in the business world for his coldness, intelligence, and power, was none other than the millionaire who would change her life. He showed no surprise or judgment, just an enigmatic smile, as if he'd been waiting for that meeting from the very first moment. His presence radiated security, but also something Emily couldn't identify. A silent power, capable of transforming any situation into absolute control. As they sat down, Emily realized there was more to this meeting than simple curiosity. Nathan began to observe her attentively, as if wanting to decipher each reaction, each gesture, each emotion hidden behind her eyes. It was different from any experience she'd had. Someone who, instead of criticizing, admired her courage. He made no comments about the kiss, made no threats or demands, just studied her, intrigued by the young woman's boldness. Emily felt a mixture of nervousness and fascination, as if she were in the presence of someone who could either destroy her or protect her, depending on her choices. Life had a curious way of transforming impulses into opportunities. That impulsive kiss, which at the time seemed just an act of desperation, now revealed itself as the key to something greater. Nathan, with subtlety and intelligence, showed that true power wasn't just in wealth, but in perception and patience and the ability to recognize courage when you see it. As the conversation progressed, Emily began to realize that Nathan was much more than he appeared. There was depth, experience, and an aura of respect that she had never felt from anyone. The tension she felt in the night of the scandal, now transformed into curiosity and admiration, indicated that this meeting could change her life forever. She reflected on the boldness of the kiss, the shame in her father's judgment, and realized that all of that had been just the beginning of an unexpected turn. Nathan didn't present himself as a savior, but as someone willing to recognize value and courage where others only saw flaws and convenience. And deep down, Emily began to feel something she had never imagined. Trust in someone who not only understood her impulse, but valued it. It was the beginning of a story that would challenge expectations, prejudices, and even the very rules of her world, showing that sometimes Life rewards those who dare to act, even in moments of injustice or public humiliation. Nathan, intrigued by Emily's courage, did something she never expected. A proposal that seemed absurd at first glance. He suggested that they fake a relationship for convenience. The idea wasn't romantic at first. It had a strategic objective. For him, it would keep away opportunistic suitors interested only in his fortune. For Emily, it was a chance to get rid of the marriage imposed by her father and regain some control over her life. The young woman felt her heart race at the boldness of the proposal, but also a pang of disbelief. It was risky, unexpected, and completely out of the ordinary. However, looking at Nathan, she realized there was sincerity in the gleam of his eyes, a promised protection and partnership, even if temporary. Many times, life puts us before choices that seem impossible, but that, if accepted, can open doors to transformative experiences. Emily felt a mixture of fear, excitement, and curiosity, knowing that this decision could completely alter her destiny. She reflected on everything that had happened. The public humiliation, the desperation of the party, the impulsive kiss, the mysterious stranger who supported her and Nathan's attention on the night of dinner. Each moment seemed to have been a silent preparation for this unusual proposal. It was a risk, of course, but also an opportunity to write her own story, to challenge family and social expectations. Emily realized that many times we are pressured to act within limits imposed by others, but courage arises when we allow ourselves to break these barriers. Nathan's plan, although risky, offered freedom, protection, and a chance to start over. The boldness of accepting this proposal was, in a way, a reflection of everything she had already faced. The injustice of an imposed destiny, society's cruel judgment, and the need to assert herself. And at the same time, there was a spark of emotion, a touch of mystery, that made everything even more engaging. Emily accepted, not without hesitation, but with the feeling that this was her only way out. The plan seemed unlikely, almost cinematic, but carried something she had never felt, a real possibility of changing her life. From that moment on, each gesture, each meeting, and each decision would become part of a performance that could become something real, but that would also require courage, intelligence, and authenticity. Nathan didn't ask for submission. He asked for partnership, understanding, and respect. And Emily, for the first time, felt that she could be the protagonist of her own story, instead of just an object of others' interests. The proposal, which seemed absurd at first, had become a bridge between the boldness of an impulsive kiss and the possibility of an unexpected future. She knew that, by embarking on this performance, she was taking risks, but also discovering the strength of her own determination, something she never imagined existed. As the weeks passed, Emily began to realize that the performance with Nathan was transforming into something deeper than she had imagined. At first, it was just a strategy, a calculated game to keep away others' interests and protect herself from the marriage imposed by her father. But as they shared moments, conversations, and laughter, she began to know his human side. Someone who, behind a cold and powerful image, also carried deep wounds and invisible traumas. With each gesture of attention and understanding, Emily felt her heart oscillate between fear and desire, between caution and curiosity. It was as if the line between performance and reality was becoming increasingly thin. Many times, life puts us before situations where unexpected feelings arise, even when we think we're just playing a role. And it was exactly that which began to happen. The young woman who believed she was just following an agreement began to question her own feelings and intentions, feeling something she never planned. Emily's internal tension was constant. She wondered if that fascination with Nathan was a result of admiration for his protection, for the mystery that surrounded him, or if it was something genuinely emotional, something that was born from true contact between two people who respect and understand each other. Her mind was in conflict. Each gesture was awakened affection. Each whispered word or attentive look seemed to build invisible bridges between their hearts. At the same time, fear of giving herself up emerged, of becoming vulnerable before someone so powerful and enigmatic. This mixture of desire and caution created an emotional whirlwind she had never felt before. It was as if she were navigating between two worlds, that of security offered by strategy and that of the emotional risk of falling in love. And deep down, Emily began to realize that life rarely follows rigid plans, and that genuine feelings can arise even in the most unlikely and unexpected circumstances. Each meeting with Nathan left a mark. Each shared smile increased desire and confusion. Emily found herself reflecting on the future, on her choices, and on the possibility of loving someone who, until then, seemed just a strategic ally. The mixture of fear, fascination, passion, and respect created an intensity that the young woman had never imagined feeling. It was a conflict of feelings so deep that it often made her question everything she believed about herself and about relationships. She began to realize that courage wasn't just defending herself from injustices or acting impulsively, but also allowing herself to feel, to open up, and to risk her heart. And in this process, the line between performance and reality was becoming almost imperceptible, leaving Emily vulnerable, but also alive in a way she had never experienced before. Each gesture, each look, and each word between them fed the feeling that something deep was emerging, something capable of completely transforming her world. Emily's world collapsed once more when she discovered the truth about her own father. It wasn't just about an arranged marriage to keep businesses afloat. There were hidden debts with dangerous people, shady deals that put her life at risk. The revelation fell on her like lightning, mixing anger, sadness, and disbelief. She felt betrayed not only as a daughter, but as a woman, as a human being who trusted the one who should protect her. Many real stories show that families can become accomplices to injustices that change lives, and Emily was now facing one of those situations. The feeling of loss of control, of having her own life manipulated, was crushing. However, in the midst of the storm, there was a constant presence that comforted her. Nathan. He not only protected her, but recognized her value, her courage, and her dignity, showing that, even in the face of betrayals and extreme pressures, there were still people who saw beyond appearance and the weight of the past. While processing the revelation about her father, Emily began to realize the radical difference between toxic family ties and the relationship she was building with Nathan. He demanded nothing, didn't manipulate, didn't seek control. He was just by her side, offering support, security, and respect. This profound contrast intensified her admiration and feelings for him, making her question old patterns and beliefs about love and trust. It was an intense learning. Many times, those who should protect us betray us, while strangers or unexpected allies show true value and loyalty. Each gesture from Nathan reinforced the idea that courage and authenticity generate unexpected and positive results. Emily felt stronger, more alive, and finally understood that her painful past wouldn't define her future. She began to see that she could choose who would see her, who would value her, and who deserved her trust, something she had never had the opportunity to do before. This discovery also brought a clarity that Emily had never imagined. She realized that true power wasn't in wealth, status, or control, but in the capacity to love, protect, and respect someone even in the face of extreme adversities. While facing family betrayal, the young woman understood that she could transform pain into learning, fear into courage, and injustice into an opportunity for change. Nathan stayed by her side, not just as a strategic ally, but as someone willing to build a relationship based on truth, trust, and genuine affection. Each gesture of his, each decision made together, strengthened the conviction that she deserved to be loved for what she was, and not for what others expected her to be. Emily began to realize that her life, previously molded by manipulation and humiliation, could now be written by herself, opening doors to exciting and unexpected choices, and finally feeling free to follow her heart. At the height of the confrontation, when her father tried to force her again to accept the engagement, Emily felt a mixture of fear and determination run through every fiber of her body. But, to her surprise, Nathan didn't hesitate for even an instant. He positioned himself beside her with firmness and courage, making it clear to everyone that he wasn't there just for convenience. The entire room fell silent, and the air seemed charged with tension and expectation. Then, with a firm voice full of conviction, he declared, "Emily is mine, and not because of an agreement, but because I chose her." Those words, simple and powerful, resonated in every corner of the ballroom, silencing judgments and imposing immediate respect. Emily, emotional, felt a wave of relief and happiness she had never imagined experiencing, as if she were finally being seen and loved for who she really was. For the first time, she realized that her courage, boldness, and authenticity had found recognition and genuine reciprocity, and that true love isn't measured by convenience, wealth, or appearance. While tears and smiles mixed, Emily understood that impulsive kiss, which at the time seemed just an act of desperation, had been the beginning of a profound transformation. The man who observed her with attention and understanding had become the safe harbor she always dreamed of, someone capable of valuing each gesture, each emotion, and each choice of hers. Nathan proved that true love is born from choice, from admiration, and from respect, and not from obligation or imposition. The young woman felt an intense connection, one of those that can't be explained, only lived. Each touch, each word, and each look between them strengthened the bond, showing that the courage to act, even in moments of humiliation and injustice, could generate surprisingly positive results. Life had given her a unique opportunity to live something authentic, exciting, and transformative. And in that instant, before all the looks that previously criticized and judged her, Emily finally allowed herself to believe that she deserved to be loved. Fear, pressure, and the pain of public humiliation gave way to courage, confidence, and the joy of being chosen by someone who truly saw her. The young woman who once felt small before the world now felt giant in her own story. The narrative of her life, marked by injustices and challenges, was transforming into an exciting story of love, authenticity, and overcoming. The impulsive kiss that previously shocked everyone now became a symbol of the beginning of true, unexpected, and lasting love. Emily finally understood that life rewards those who have the courage to act, to assert themselves, and to choose their own destiny, and that true love arises when we're bold enough to follow our hearts, even amid fears, pressures, and others' expectations. Following Emily's story, it's clear that life never follows a predictable script. Many times, we're pushed by others' expectations, judgments, and injustices that seem to suffocate us. But, as she showed, courage and authenticity have a transformative power. An impulsive gesture, a moment of boldness, can change everything and open doors that no one imagined. Think about your own life. How many opportunities have you already let slip away because of fear or what others might think? How many times have you conformed to others' decisions that didn't reflect who you really are? Now reflect. What if you had the courage to act, even amid fear, pressure, and humiliation? What if that impulse, that bold attitude, could transform your life in an unexpected way, just as it happened with Emily? Her story shows that, many times, the first step toward freedom, toward being recognized, and toward achieving what really matters, begins with a simple but firm decision. Change doesn't wait. It comes for those who allow themselves to dare and choose their own path. And you, are you ready to act and write your own story? What actions can you take today to free yourself from the pressures and injustices that surround you? Leave your opinion in the comments. Share your experiences, and let's together inspire more people to act with courage and authenticity. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow more exciting stories, full of twists and life lessons that can transform your daily life. Your journey of transformation begins now.